AdultBrain.ca. That's AdultBrain.ca.
Grimerica.
I have that burner account. We could upload it through that one.
A burner Audible account?
I have a burner account for everything. You need a backup. Come on. You gotta stay in business.
Back up to the backup to the backup.
Back up to the backup to the backup. Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We are going to be chatting with Graham Dunlop a little bit later about AdultBrain, and which is, of course, our audio publishing company, and I guess not just audio publishing. We do publish ebooks and print books. Publish my book, Canadian Shame, through it. So you can get ebooks and print books of all the audio books we've done as well. It's just not kind of the highlight. The highlight and the sort of reason we started it all was for the audiobooks, and we're going to go through a bunch of those here today because Graham's read, I think, about 40 books now. Some of arguably the best esoteric and occult classics of the last few hundred years that we've sort of brought back to life and made available on audio. Our thing is sort of we take these audiobooks that, not audiobooks, we take these books that are super old, like Secret Doctrine, written in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that nobody has the rights to anymore because they're in the public domain. So there's not really a reason to get them to audio. So we've started doing that, and you guys can jump on that and get them over there. And there's a bunch of them over at AdultBrain.ca. You can type Graham Dunlop into Audible and they'll all pop up. I think it's does anyone listen to audiobooks in iTunes anymore?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
The odd person. That's the other place they point out.
And I want to give out a shout out before I forget to Eric P. Anthony, who really sort of there's a bunch. This is a very synchronous thing that happened. Honestly, this whole for the last 12 years, this sort of has been sort of ramping up, or actually 15 years to 14 years, ramping up to this sort of opportunity that we have here, because I don't want to get in too deep into that. But Eric P. Anthony, we had him on our show a long time ago. He had that spiritual alchemy book called The Song of the Immortal Beloved. And he wanted to do it in audio, and he gave us a chance at it. And at first it was really tough to say yes to, because of just fear, and it was a huge esoteric tome, very similar to some of these other books.
It's a lot of work. Let's not forget that.
Difficult read. But you know what?
The mastering, we can the parameters, having the studio and everything in place. It made sense to try and pull it off.
Yeah.
I think you've only had to read one twice, which was ironically
one of Eric's books.
One of Eric's books.
Yeah. And thank God, because it was a way better second read, actually, that one. And that was the Concerto of the Rising Sun, which was sort of an after book from the Song of the Immortal Beloved, because people were, these spiritual alchemists were getting in touch with them, and it was kind of a dialogue of actually our friend Ram Feck and Eric's cousin, who was on our show before, and a couple other guys discussing this spiritual alchemy. And I really believe that that's a huge part of spirituality, is the ability to transmute emotions and stuff like that, which he's got some kind of meditation. Actually, I did a meditation. I've done some meditations based on that we haven't really published yet or done anything with, but they'll be coming out in audio at some point. I think Brady helped us with the video of one of them. It looks really good from just a sort of a background information. So there's a few short meditations coming out eventually.
Yeah, I think he's got. They might all be done, but at least two of them are done.
Yeah. So that's
Did he send me the links for them?
Big shout out to Eric for even just giving us a chance, and then that kind of opened up the door to this whole thing, which we've sort of been manifesting as well, doing this show and learning as we go along.
Totally.
And before I forget, I do want to mention, because we got some feedback on this as well at one of our trips. I do want to mention, I want to kind of describe, we have this whole other show. It's a whole other feed, Grimerica Outlawed. It's a show that Darren and I started up, and we made it sort of one of these subscriber feeds. It's usually 2 hours long, second half for subscribers only. Like, you can go to Grimerica Outlawed and pay like $6.39 a month to get the second half of these shows. And that's kind of where we sort of approach some of these more censorious topics, and we sort of hit some of the deeper kind of
is that a word?
I don't know, the New World Order stuff, but it's a whole separate podcast. It's a whole separate feed. There's a free version of it, of course, if you search Grimerica Outlawed, and then there's the subscriber version, which is a full 2 hours. It's kind of set up the same way like Aeon Byte is, or THC, those types of things. It's sort of an automated subscription thing where, if you sign up through that website, you get this RSS feed that you can paste into your player, put your password and your name in there, and it gives you the full episode. So that's a completely separate thing.
Just type Grimerica Outlawed into your podcast player, and it should pop up. I mean, most podcast players, if you just type in Grimerica, 3 things are going to pop up. Grimerica Show, Grimerica Show 2.0, and Grimerica Outlawed. And if you listen to those Grimerica Outlawed episodes, which are a whole new show, and you can listen to them all for free, or at least the last 33 of them for free, then there'll be stuff in the show notes there on how to go the rest of the way and get deeper if you do want to support us that way on that plus model. Of course, that's because, unfortunately, the value for value model just over here wasn't enough of an income source for us to do all the things we wanted to do, and for Graham to quit his job and go full time. But luckily, with this, and then adding AdultBrain to that, and then supplementing this podcast with the subscription model podcast like Carlwood does over at, and it was Carlwood's buddy that actually brought this up. Shout out to him. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he was a good guy. And he listens to the show. So shout out to him. Where was I going with that?
About just because the value for value. So we wanted to sort of ramp it up.
Yeah, we had to, what's the word? We had to expand. We had to expand our
we could have
revenues.
done double the content in Grimerica. The problem is we're having these sort of arguments internally and externally of how much to approach with what's happening in this dystopia world right now. Like, do we talk about COVID? Do we talk about Canada becoming a communist state, which is like happening right before our eyes right now? But we're getting censored if we talk about vaccines and all this stuff on our other show. We've had like 9 years of a successful podcast talking about all kinds of crazy stuff from UFOs and spirituality and psychedelics and all this stuff that's, mysterious, but not too censorious. So we thought, well, we can double our content on that. And then hopefully people will, support us with value for value, or we can, do sort of what these other models have done and sort of come up with a whole different feed with longer shows and get into sort of the deeper controversial topics, which we still do in Grimerica too sometimes, but this is a little bit more longer and deeper. So we thought we'd try that, and it's helped. I've been able to barely quit my job and give this a leap of faith, and then thank the Lords for AdultBrain and these audiobooks and stuff.
Censorious is a word.
I think I've looked that up before myself. I'm like, it doesn't sound right.
Tending to censor, expressing censor,
and that is one of the best ways
addicted to censor, apt to blame or condemn, severe in making remarks on others or on their writings or manners. Wow, we got some censorious motherfuckers running around these days, isn't it something? Isn't it fucking something? I mean, our own media in Canada is fucking outrageous. But, I mean, we're not going to get into that too much here. You guys head over to GrimericaOutlawed.ca if you want to hear us bitch about that stuff. We just did a whole half an hour on our border debacle, getting into the country here the last time, which is about a week ago. A week ago? Not even a week ago. 4 days ago.
A week ago tomorrow.
Week ago tomorrow? We got home on
Tuesday.
Wednesday. Tuesday.
Tuesday.
We got home on
Tuesday. So it's a week ago Tuesday.
I had to block the fucking government, man. They will not stop calling me, so I blocked them. We'll see what that leads to. I did. Maybe they're calling because I posted the first half. So part one of our border debacle is posted on the YouTube channel. If you guys want to check that out, of me berating the customs officer, which I don't feel great about, but you know I had a role to play, so I played it, and I have to stand your ground sometimes. And then we'll play part two of that, which is me talking on the telephone to the federal health people, and eventually getting my card back and getting out of there. And you haven't been called, so that's good. You know, I mean, I can deal with this shit. Bring it on. I'm going to the rec room on Thursday, so hopefully
maybe there'll be a big event at the rec room on Thursday.
Well, I think there's a big event yesterday. Wasn't there a big protest here yesterday?
No,
is that every Saturday?
You being arrested, you know, from the media.
We should probably start going to those.
Spectacle of you.
We should probably start going to those. We need fake IDs that say we're Bob and Doug McKenzie so that they can cancel their accounts.
Anyways, this is just an amazing time to be alive. It really is. It's so unbelievable. The lies they're doubling down on lies and propaganda, and people are seeing through it. I mean, you can't help but see through it. It's fantastic. It's the cops getting all violent on the peaceful protests. And I mean, there's still some people that are against the protests. Well, whatever.
Well, here, I mean Pat King's a fucking idiot. He ain't helping anything. And now they're like mentioning his name in Parliament. It's like, great. Thanks, bro. Really. We really need you fucking getting named in Parliament because you're a fucking meatball who says a bunch of bonehead shit. You seem to be, you're on the record talking about, you know, the Aryans being the master race. I mean, just get the fuck out of here.
No. Are they?
Yeah, man. He's a piece of work. The problem is he gets drunk and he just goes off at the thing, and you know, he might not mean. He probably means it. I mean, I can't get caught here defending Pat King. It can't happen.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've been hearing some. Did you hear about the Plaid Army, the Plaid group, and all that? Is that what this is all about too?
Well, I've never heard of the Plaid Army.
Okay, well, we should. Okay, I don't really want to talk about it.
Sounds
on the show,
too
but I'll
good to be
talk
true.
about that. I'm seeing the stuff, and I'm like, I just don't know what to believe anymore.
I just know from the things I've seen Pat King say. Just from the shit I've seen Pat King say, he's a fucking idiot. And he should not be anywhere near that movement. To the point that if you like, people are spouting that it's on this Freedom Convoy page. I've never seen the actual Freedom Convoy page. I don't know if it exists. It definitely doesn't exist from the people from Tamara and those people. They were very clear on that first GoFundMe page. I haven't checked to see if it's on the new page, but the first update on the fucking GoFundMe page was we are not fucking associated with fucking Pat King. He does not speak for us. He's not a spokesman for us. He just showed up. Anyway.
Well, it's hard because you want people to be
he's enthusiastic.
Too, right? I mean, you want enthusiastic leaders to step forward.
He's just the wrong kind. He's a bad enthusiastic. He's a bad look.
Anyways, it's a fantastic time because it really is.
It's great.
I mean, I think that they're bringing in cops from
I did see some stuff about UN planes.
I don't know about that, but
I don't know about that either. I'm not gonna.
Army people there with colors on their shoulders.
They're unmarked, which I thought was illegal in Canada. I mean, I got a great.
They can do whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't matter what's illegal in Canada.
I pulled a screenshot.
It does not matter anymore. Law does not matter anymore for the politicians.
I pulled a screenshot anymore of one of them standing on the Canadian flag, one of those green ones.
That looked edited. I don't know. That looked edited.
Oh no, it's not.
You screenshotted it?
It's out of a video.
Oh, it really? Oh, good. Okay. It looked weird. That it looked like it was photoshopped or something. But I mean, the thing is, people better start realizing it.
You're calling out that?
This
really?
is a class
some of the stuff
war.
you fall for?
What?
You're calling out my picture really after some of the stuff I've seen you fall for? I'm hurt.
Well, I don't know. You should have picked a better video to screenshot. I don't know. I mean, I was doing it on behalf of. I was picturing people, using that as propaganda against us. But I mean, the thing is, they're getting away with whatever they want, and people better start realizing it now. We're in the war. We're in this long, protracted World War III, and it's the elites against everyone else. And
trying to
propaganda
protest at the media places. We need to
And what?
occupy the CBC.
100%. That's exactly what I think. The
You set it up. I'll
convoy's
go
gotta
with you.
there.
No, not the convoy. We'll just go in that motherfucker, take over the place, start broadcasting. Fight Club style.
That's really interesting.
These cats are
Mhm.
going to get in a fight here. This is going to be weird. Huh. Anyway.
So, yeah. So I got
Let me-
an email to share as well.
Get out a pen and paper and write this down, or a pencil. Why don't you send some physical mail to the Grimerica Show at P.O. Box 16033, next line. 100-815, comma, 17th Avenue, SW, next line. Calgary, Alberta, next line. Canada, next line. T2T space 5H7. That's the PO.
I don't think you have to put in Canada, do you? Maybe you do. Do you? Anyway, this is, we got this a while ago. We already gave the shout out to Steve Lynch. I'll give another shout out to him because he is actually making me a hunting knife now, which I can't wait to get my hands on. But I mean, the tomahawk is fucking fantastic. I actually have started hacking some stuff up with it, so that's been fun. The kids had an old rocking horse here that we decided they didn't want anymore, so we hacked that up. That was fun. Anyway, this one comes from a hollowed out book. It was a hollowed out version of Charlie Murphy's book. Charlie Robinson, not Charlie Murphy. Charlie Murphy's dead, God rest his soul. Charlie Robinson's book, The Octopus of Global Control, showed up. I was like, what's this? It's taped shut. And I was like, ooh, must be something inside. Not a handgun, unfortunately. Next best thing, seeds. Darren and Graham. I've been a fan and listener of the show for a few years now, but I'm embarrassed to say I've never donated or supported in any way. Your show means a lot to me, and I've never missed an episode, including the Outlawed episodes. I'm sort of an old school, so I don't do Twitter or Instagram, and I've never been into chats. I literally download your show and all the others I listen to from iTunes onto my old-ass iPod.
Oh my God, that still works?
I guess it does. I work primarily outdoors all day, so this method works best for me instead of draining my phone battery, etc. That is a good point. That probably does, like, if you're not doing everything else on your phone, it probably lasts a long time. I'm explaining all of this to paint a brief picture. I'm a gardener / landscaper and laborer. I work alone most days and long hours with my hands. I have had days listening to literally 10 hours of Grimerica straight. That cannot be good for you. Probably makes you crazy. No, I'm just kidding. It's probably okay. It's like a mix of good vibes and craziness. I think we were like ahead of the curve on some shit, like COVID. This is not an insignificant thing. I feel like I know you guys.
You do.
I'm sure you hear that all the time, and I'm sure it never stops being creepy. Haha. It's not creepy. We love that you love us. We'd like to get to know you too. Come to a cat. Contact@cabin.com. We'll hang out. Don't be weird. And have a time. So, I mean, the great thing is about CAC is you get people there from 20 years old to 80 years old. So in addition to being a self-employed gardener, I also started an online seed store. Fruits, veggies, herbs, etc. I am the breadwinner for a family of 4, my wife and I, and 2 amazing girls. I have 2 girls myself. And I'm never really in a position to spend much on anything. But I still wanted to support Grimerica. So here's a bunch of garden seeds, secreted away inside Charlie's book to hopefully escape any legal international scrutiny bullshit. The government's pretty preoccupied right now. I mean, there's probably never been a better time to send weed in the mail to us, to me. P.O. Box.
Dirty socks.
Dirty socks. Stick them inside some dirty socks. Get that shit in the mail. Now the government is busy doing martial law in the East, so we can send that shit to the West. I'm sure it's coming west, but we'll see what happens. We might have to fight it at the border. Where was I? I thought it would be a fun way to smuggle contraband, albeit benign in its nature, across the border to you guys, and I'm sure Charlie would appreciate this in some way. In any case, I had 2 copies to begin with, so no loss. Anyway, start a garden, enjoy the variety of seeds, save them, trade them, grow them, whatever. I love what you guys do and wanted to share my passion with you. That sounded weird, but you know what I'm saying. Thanks, guys. Peace and love and good vibes. Joe. daddygarden.org.
Nice.
Get some seeds. We got so much seeds. Bill sent us seeds. We got a seed stash. I mean, we're set. We got to put them inside something. Maybe I should vacuum pack those motherfuckers.
All right, I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Maybe
too.
we should buy you a big LED tent.
Let's just wait a couple months
growing
and see.
veggies like a motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't really eat that many veggies. I'm still trying to get on back on that carnivore diet.
Well, we could trade them in the future.
Yeah, that's true.
Communist.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. It will be worth it.
Comutopia.
We should start making vodka too, I guess, if you really want something to trade.
I mean, we're at the point now where I'm in the process of opening up a U.S. bank account because it seems like it's not a bad idea to have some money that Justin Trudeau can't decide to shut down. I mean, here's the thing. We're pretty critical of Mr. Trudeau, myself included, mostly you, also me. So I'd hate to have our account shut down.
Well, that's what's coming to. I mean, it really is. I mean, I was on with the COVID Critical Care Alliance, I believe it's called. It's a bunch of doctors and scientists that, because of the censorious nature of COVID and all the lies in the media.
If we had episode titles, that would have to be the episode title.
They've had to create their own organization, right? I mean, they've got actually an online doc. You can call the doctors. They've got a teledoc thing for COVID, which has worked fantastic. Anyways, was on this Zoom call with hundreds of them, and this came up, and they've had to do extra calls with some experts on sort of this money situation kind of thing. And it's not on behalf of them. It's just a totally separate thing. But they're talking about this, getting money into a U.S. account. I mean, this is a whole bunch of normal people trying to figure out how to protect their finances from the government based on lies. This is how it is. This is how it boils down to it. I mean, it's unbelievable right now.
If that happens, they'll probably let you into Montana as a political prisoner. Maybe you could marry me.
Then we'll get in for sure, I mean,
I run a tight ship.
What if we just tell the guys at the border, like, we're escaping Canada, we're escaping a communist state?
Well, first we tried to sneak in, but yeah, I mean, if it got to that point where they seized your bank accounts, I would say you probably could. You'd have a pretty good argument to get into the States.
Oh, it's unbelievable. This is not just people talking about it. It's happened.
73
people
bank
on
accounts.
The call. How many?
73.
That's it?
Here's the thing. My visa's missing right now.
What does that mean?
Well, it's like when I go into my online banking, it's not there.
What?
Yeah. So I was like, well,
no. It's you just got to hit the view more button.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I even went to like view my accounts, and it's like, well, you need more than one account to. And I'm like, what? Where's my visa? And we just used it for the whole debacle. Went over the border. I'm dodging the government's calls right now because I think they want me to be in quarantine. Well, they definitely want me to be in quarantine. They definitely
didn't tell you that. They didn't give you any paperwork.
No, because we had them razzled. But that's what they want. So I'm like, well, fucking, that's what I used the whole trip was that visa. I didn't use any of my other cards one time. That visa paid for everything the whole way down and back. And but then I used my visa yesterday too. I went and got some meat, some chicken. Good deal over at Sprague.
And it used to be in your app there?
It used to be in my app because I went on there to see how much I had to pay off.
What the fuck?
And it's not there. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So I went to view more accounts, and it's like, well, you need more than one account to view more than one accounts. But here's the thing. I'm in the process of changing my visa. So they said my card would keep working until I activated the new one that they're mailing, because I changed to the one because we travel so much now that I changed to the one that gives you travel points. It costs this one I have is free, and the new one doesn't change the credit limit or anything, but instead of getting weird points that I don't really do anything with right now, I just use my points against my balance all the time. But this one gives you a bunch of miles, and I guess just for switching, I get enough miles for a flight. But and I book everything with that thing. I book the venues when we're doing contact at the cabin. If we have flights, I'll book them with that a lot of the times. So we might as well start getting travel points and all that, get some free flights. So I switched to that. And this was just Friday. I did this on Friday. And I know she said my visa was going to keep working. But then she also said it was going to be a new card number when the new one showed up. So I'm wondering if they just deleted it from my online banking because it doesn't really matter and I have to add the new one. I used it anyway. Today when I noticed it wasn't there, I was like, well, fuck. I better order something. So I went on and ordered groceries on Instacart. And it worked. It still works. I'm hoping. I'm wondering, what if it like fell into a crack? And it's like they forgot this visa exists, and I just have this visa I can use forever and never get a bill.
Well, they're so frazzled by the government asking them to freeze people's accounts. I mean, I know it's cold in Ottawa, but freezing accounts is another thing.
Oh my God, bro! Really?
The banks were caught off guard, dude. On Friday. On Friday is when they all went down. So maybe it did fall through the cracks.
That would be something if I just have a secret visa now that I never get a bill for.
Oh, I love it. This is great.
Once the new one comes in and I activate, I'll have to go try this one and see what happens.
Eventually they find out they're like, there's just $2 million worth of travel stuff on this card.
What? No. That must have got stolen by some beautiful brown bastard. Grimerica.ca/support, guys, if you're getting some value from the show. It's not a free show. It's a value for value show. I mean, Grimerica.ca/support. You head over there, make a one-time donation, sign up for a monthly, $1, $2, $5, $20 a month, $100 a month. Whatever the show is worth to you. We put a lot of work into this, a lot of effort. And if we are getting some value from it, head over to Grimerica.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly, make a one-time donation, send some value back our way. And check out that Grimerica Outlawed like we were talking to earlier because, we're not like rolling in cash over here by any stretch of the imagination. We need like every avenue from the events to the books to the both podcasts, and we need them all sort of churning ahead at full speed to not that we're complaining. I mean, life is good.
Oh, not at all complaining, but just yeah.
I want to get out of this job one day.
Don't want to go back to the day job.
I was looking at Broncos.
I have a large email, but I think
we need a Grimerica Bronco.
You want a white Bronco? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, a white Bronco that just says Grimerica on the tailgate in purple letters.
Outlawed.
Outlawed. Grimerica Outlawed.
There's our vehicle. I mean,
it'd be
really.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at the pictures with the hard top off and stuff like that. What do you think?
I love those. Is that like the big old type of Bronco?
It's fucking dope, man. It's the 2022 one.
Yeah. Oh, 2022. Oh, those.
It's like
Broncos.
The one we seen.
Those are really cool. Yeah.
They're cool. I'm strongly considering because I'm trading in my truck because I did the experiment for the smaller motor and I don't like it. So I'm going back to the bigger motor and I was like, maybe I should get a Bronco. But I think I would really miss having a back.
A bed?
Yeah. With all my hunting and everything.
Yeah.
Unless I had a trailer. Unless I go out and got like a covered trailer that just had my hunting stuff in it all the time. Which could be one way to go. But I mean, right now, I sure like being able to hop in my truck and go. Like we would have had a hell of a time even just doing what we were doing with a third or fourth. Especially with 4 people, you'd be fucked. But...
Well, the Bronco probably has more room than you think in there. No,
we should go drive one.
Did you drive one?
I didn't drive one. I've just looked at them online.
Okay,
we should go drive one.
So yeah, I got a huge email that's kind of an outlawed. He's talking about outlawed, and it's a great email, but I will save it for next week because it's quite long, and I'm going to be doing lots of little quotes and reading here for the next little while. So
quotes and reading.
Yeah.
Reading and quotes.
So maybe we should talk about, do you want to get into it then? Just jump into the...
Sure.
I'll just wait for you to...
To what?
Ready here.
I'm ready. I was looking to see if I had an AdultBrain jingle. I thought I did, but I don't think I put it on here yet.
Quick question. Can we give people a link if they are not on Audible to sign up through us? I think we can generate a link for that, right? that will help support us too.
Yes.
So I'm going to put a link in the show notes. If you're not on Audible, or I mean, we have to use Audible basically. I mean, we could keep this in our own sort of podcast feed or some crazy thing like that. But honestly, we're just sort of using the beast that Amazon/Audible is right now to do the audiobooks. So if you're not on Audible, I mean, it is a great app and there's tons of great audiobooks. You can follow this link. It helps support us and you can get onto Audible that way. You can even sign up for, your free book as you sign up and then cancel it if you want. I don't know if we still get the money if you cancel it that month or not, but I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it helps support us. And also, if you can't afford it, I'd like to offer, if you like, we're going to go through some books here, kind of do like a mini book review and talk about a lot of these books that we've published. And if you can't afford it,
okay, continue. Just remember, there's a lot of people listening.
Yeah, okay. I know. But if
just be careful about what you say next.
Just send me an email and I'll send you a link to a free book.
Okay.
Send me Graham at Grimerica.com.
Because I already gave away all the Book of the Damned ones to the Snake Bros.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Because they did a book review on it.
Oh, great. Yeah. And honestly,
their audience chewed through it way faster than I thought. So I'm just like, be careful.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So, but we do have a couple free ones to give out. So email Graham at Grimerica.com. What? We
love you guys.
And speaking of that, I mean, the reviews help. So if you are inclined in Audible, I think that's one of the big things on the algos is those 5-star reviews really help. So might as well throw that out there too, right?
Word, 100%. Review that shit.
Let's start with our favorite book of all, The Canadian Shame.
Oh,
hey, Darren, why don't we mention that? I mean, we did that in audio. This is Darren's book. If you should what?
I wonder if I should have read it. It seems long.
I don't know.
I'm not really into reading them. I mean, I read that one. I didn't like it.
I was doing all the reading. It.
You still are doing all the reading. I read one and I'm like, eh.
Well, we do got to mention, we do have a couple books that I can't really review because I didn't read them. We had Joe Roop read one and Owen Hunt read another one. Russ did some reading in Secret Teachings of All Ages. He read all the notes, which was like a book in itself. But anyways, you want to start with yours, Darren? The Canadian Shame, and that's about the Indian Act, right?
Yes, sir. It's right in front of me. It holds up my mic. So how'd you like reading it?
It was interesting. I mean, it's pretty heavy, right? It's heavy. It's kind of sad. I mean, because honestly, I was always looking for maybe misinformation about what happened with the natives, and this is it just shows how freaking bad things were in the early 1900s, late 1800s with the indigenous populations.
Totally. It was a rough one. I mean, my new one's going to come out right away. It's like I'm on the second draft.
And what's that called?
In Their Own Words. I haven't 100% solidified the subtitle yet.
Yeah.
But Henry Hablack, friend of the show, Henry Hablack did the episode art for that. So I expect that to come out the first week of March.
Nice. So, I mean, we'll talk about, your book a little bit and what you got into the timeline, right? About the Indian Act and what happened with the land and the residential schools.
It's a real amalgamation of all kind of all the stuff you'd want to know about those two subjects brought into one place. One easy to get to, easy to research. Impeccably sourced place. How did it come across in audio?
Pretty good. I mean, I had to read all the timelines of the official government stuff, right? Some of them. I think we read the what's that called? That act. What was the one that?
Yeah, and then there was a bunch.
The TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So I think I had to read that whole thing. That's in there, the whole timeline of the Indian Act as well. So, I mean, some of it's a little dry because it's a government timeline, but it brings a lot of context to what's been happening. And we get into the 60s scoop Where they're sort of pressuring families to let their kids go to these residential schools. I mean, there's a lot of problem with the residential schools. And then, of course, we talked to Kevin and Ned and these guys on the show that it makes you question even, the media's coverage of it and the cops' coverage. And now that, this stuff came out now recently about the Kamloops school, that they had found no dead bodies there at all. And, of course, I don't trust those headlines coming out that they were even looking. And this is kind of what Kevin says a lot.
Oh, Kevin called it.
That's kind of over and above your book. But I mean, they sort of stopped the investigation and then they come out later and say, but then, then of course that, the propagandist part of that is that, people blame the government and media for blowing the original story up. Well, maybe the original story was correct.
Yes.
Did you ever hear any details about that one or recently?
I have not. I've been on holidays. Kind of from all of that.
Anything else you want to mention about that book?
No, it was a good book. You should buy it. thecanadianshame.ca if you want to get a paperback. Someone just emailed me about wanting a signed copy the other day.
Nice.
I mean, it's in the Calgary Public Library now, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
2 copies. And it's in my home school library, so can't ask for much more than that. I could ask for a few $1 million, so go buy it. All is. Buy 3 copies. Give 2 away.
What do you want to get into now? Should I just go through some of the books?
What was your favorite?
This is the problem. I was asked this at CAC when I was up at the mic, just sort of doing the goodbye thing. And somebody asked me and I kind of got caught off guard. And I mean, I didn't even think of the, I'll kind of mention sort of a list of them. I mean, Secret Teachings of All Ages is almost like a Bible or almost like an encyclopedia of ancient mysteries and secret teachings. So that one's kind of, it's on its own sort of little category. And what the John Yarker book felt like to me was almost like a summary version of that book. It's almost like Manly P. Hall took Yarker's book and totally expanded it and got into way more details. Yarker's felt like a mini Secret Teachings book. And that Yarker book was called Notes on the Scientific and Religious Mysteries of Antiquity, the Gnosis and Secret Schools of the Middle Ages, Modern Rosicrucianism, and the Various Rites and Degrees of Free and Accepted Masonry. And then, of course, Proofs of a Conspiracy was really good because that was from the 1700s, and that talks about the Illuminati and all the Freemasons in Europe. What the Ancient Wisdom Expects of Its Disciples is the last remaining audio book from Manly P. Hall that wasn't on audio. And that was pretty good. Actually, it was a short one, but it talks about the wisdom, the ancient mystery schools as well. What else?
What about, were you just going to say secret societies and subversive movement?
Yeah.
I like the title for that is SSSM.
Yeah. Well, and that one's scary because it kind of gets into the Jews a little bit, and it's probably a little more controversial. And it talks about all these societies as well and digs into it. It references that Proofs of Conspiracy book quite a bit. So that's kind of like a summary. Then we're fortunate enough to have Charles Fort's collection in audio as well, which was fantastic. And just to kind of finish off with we also have the Unibomber Manifesto, Ted Kaczynski's book on there, Hamlet's Mill, which is another great one. The Wisdom of the Ancients. This was read by Robert Frederick for us. He was a past guest of ours, and that's by Francis Bacon.
Oh, didn't you just do a new one too?
Yes, he did. And the new one is, I've got it here somewhere. Ritual and, I don't want to mess up the title here. From Ritual to Romance. And it's kind of like he says the Grail legends are totally linked to the ancient fertility rituals of India and the Middle East, which is where the initiations of the mystery schools like Mithraism came from. Amazing. Miss Jessie Weston, who wrote this, seems to have been the first Joseph Campbell. So this is So she spent decades immersed in the Arthurian canon, wrote this relatively short book to attempt to explain the roots of the legend of the Holy Grail. She enumerates the seemingly inexplicable elements of the quest, the Fisher King, the Wasteland, the Chapel Perilous, and the Grail Cup itself, and ties them to the symbols of the initiatory rites of the ancient mystery religions. And she also attempts to identify the author and locality of the tale, and her thesis still inspires heated controversy among academics. It is also claimed that T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland was based on this book. So that's kind of a nice little summary of that, but that's not out yet, right? That's coming out.
Which one's that? Sorry, what's the title?
That's from Ritual to Romance.
Oh yeah, I haven't even started that one yet.
Yeah, so that'll be coming out soon.
That's what that one I'm just about to start editing. I'm about to. I just did, book 1 of that Egypt series isn't out yet, but I did just pop out book 2 of it, book 4 of it. I popped out the other day. So book 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 to 4 should all be out, I would say, by the end of the week-ish.
Yeah.
If not early next week.
So Darren's talking about Ancient Egypt, The Light of the World by Gerald Massey, and that's another huge tome. It's like 900 pages. There's a couple books, part of a 12-book series in 2 volumes, basically.
You want to play a game?
What's that?
You want to play a game?
Sure.
I could play some of the samples and see if you guess what book it's from.
No, that's just too...
That's too hard for you?
No,
Let's start with this one.
I can try, but it's just, I don't know if I want to hear my own voice on the show.
This one only has, people hear your own voice on the show all the time. This one has only 4.5 stars, so that's not good. We like to have a solid 5
Which
stars.
one was that? So there's also the History of Spiritualism, which was another great one from Arthur Conan Doyle. That was 400 pages, and we'll dig into these a little bit as well. There's also, did you get Natural Magic out from Agrippa? That was written in the 1500s.
Oh, that one's next. I'm working on that one right now. Okay, ready?
So that'll be coming out soon. Yep, and the Third British Empire as well, which is more of a sort of a weird technical government book.
How long was that one? Short?
I don't know. Felt long.
I bet
7 or 8 hours. It's interesting how they talk about Canada in there with everything that's going on right now. As the senior, if least deserving, of the authors, I shall open the narrative. Over many years, I have searched for the point where myth and science join. It was clear to me for a long time that the origins of science had their deep roots in a particular myth, that of invariance. The Greek... Yeah, that's I just read that.
Hamlet's Mill.
Right. I just read that. Like preparing for today, I read that.
The whole book?
No, that part.
That's pretty long.
I was going to read that to you. It's like it's the preface of Hamlet's Mill. I mean, so Hamlet's Mill is interesting because it just ties all these ancient myths sort of together. There's commonalities between them all. And I mean, when those guys like David Matheson and the guys that we talked to over the years on Grimerica mentioned Hamlet's Mill, I expected it to be some super technical, astronomical book, describing the positions of the stars and all this. I always figured it was like sort of technical, but it's really kind of more of an esoteric sort of common mythological book. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I haven't read it.
I mean, it gets into like history, myth, and reality. It talks about the Finland stuff, the Iranian parallel, Amlodi's queen, the many-colored cover, shamans and smiths, Amlodi, the Titan and his spinning top, the twilight of the gods. It talks about all these similarities with the whirlpool and the waters from the deep and the stone and the tree, how they come from all these different mythologies.
Comes highly recommended.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And then it's
all right, you should get this one. 26 5-star reviews.
Number 110. Still, one has to use common sense in applying the principles. They are expressed in imprecise language that allows latitude for interpretation and exceptions to them can be found. So we present these principles not as inviolable laws, as rules of thumb, or guides to thinking, that may provide a partial antidote to naive ideas about future of society.
What you got? This should be an easy one.
I don't know.
The Unibomber Manifesto.
Oh, yeah, that's an old one. So, yeah. Well, can you talk a bit about that one?
Well, yeah.
That was one of our first read, so the quality's probably not good, but I mean, people are enjoying it. That was pretty creepy to read, actually.
Industrial Society and Its Future, widely called the Unibomber Manifesto, was a 35,000-word essay by Ted Kaczynski, contending that the Industrial Revolution began a harmful process of technology destroying nature, while forcing humans to adapt to machines and creating a socio-political order that suppresses human freedom and potential. The manifesto formed an ideological foundation of Kaczynski's 1978 to 1995 mail bomb campaigns, which we do not
condone.
What's that word where we don't have to worry about that? We just say that and we're okay.
The disclaimer, right?
Not disclaim. No, it's where we condone. I think it's condone.
Yeah.
We just have to condone that and we're good. But it's important to listen to.
No, we don't condone that.
We don't condone it.
Yeah.
We don't condone it. We don't condone it.
But the weird thing is, like, he do you have more to read there?
No, that's good.
So, I mean, because he went through didn't he go through some of that LSD stuff from the government? I mean, and he was, it's so weird that his insights were pretty interesting about the over socialization and what's the other half of that?
I don't know.
Educated and over socialization or something like that.
Maybe.
Anyways, it's pretty. He hit the nail on the head with some of the sort of cancel culture stuff that seems to be happening. The victimization and
100%.
And, and the clampdown on freedom. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I feel like we're at the culmination now of this long battle of humanity, like of the people that just want to be free, the free peoples with like the elite or the authoritarians. I mean, it really is coming down to that. People are finally jumping off the fence. They have to pick a side, I think, sooner or later. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And that's kind of the theme of a lot of these books is that, this battle's been going on longer than I thought, whether it's against religion and materialism, like the Secret Doctrine and Blavatsky's and the Theosophical works, or whether it's about the secret societies and their desire to take over the world and control the world and come up with, one world government based on liberty and equality as they see it. And they want you to figure out what you're good at and make you do what you're good at. They want to be the judges over all that. So
what if I'm
how
good
can
at
they call
everything?
it free? What?
What if I'm good at everything?
Then you're just going to be leading the society.
Yes.
You'll be a leader.
Yes.
And then you can just clamp down
I'll be
on everybody
leader?
else. And
That's
you
a good
can
word. Did you just coin that? I'll be a leader. It's like a double entendre. And a leader.
So where do you want to go?
I'm an elitist and a leader. And a leader.
Yeah. And a leader? There you go.
We get some shirts that say a leader.
That's like Justin Trudeau. He's an leader right now.
He's Castro. Justin Castro. Sorry, what did you say before that? I'm laughing at my own joke. It was pretty funny though.
Well, okay. Speaking of that, let's just.
Do you want me to play another one?
No, I want no. Well, not really. Some of these are too old. They're like it doesn't feel like that's not what.
All right, here. Let's
like
try this
now.
one. See if this one's better.
It was their theory that the young man was a white slaver who, by means of a hypodermic injection, had sought to render a victim insensible. Probably having waiting outside a cab, to which he, explaining that he was her companion, would carry her. There were marks upon Mrs. Graff's arm, but it seems that they were not made by a darning needle.
That's got to be
the
one of
idea that
Charles
the
Ford's
needle might
books.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Wild talents. What about this
I
one?
mean, oh, dude, I can't wait to get into some of that.
Here's one more.
Chapter 1: Schisms in Freemasonry. There is undoubtedly a dignity in the art of building, or in architecture, which no other art possesses. And this, whether we consider it in its rudest state, occupied in raising a hut, or as practiced in a cultivated nation, in the erection of a magnificent and ornamented temple. As the arts in general improve in any nation, this must always maintain its preeminence. For it employs them all, and no man can be eminent as an architect who does not possess a considerable knowledge of almost every science and art already cultivated in his nation.
Is that the Yarker book or the
No.
the Proofs of Conspiracy?
Proofs of a conspiracy. You got it. You win.
Okay. Speaking of the Yarker book, I want this is so Randall Carlson recommended Yarker, and we already had it on our list, and that was kind of nice that we were already going to do this one. But this is notes on the scientific and religious mysteries of antiquity, the gnosis and secret schools of the Middle Ages, modern Rosicrucianism, and the various rites and degrees of free and accepted Masonry by John Yarker. And he was a member of the Rosicrucians and the Masonic Archaeological Institute, a fellow of the London Literary Union. I mean, his credentials go on and on and on, of course, in this pyramid-shaped text on the cover of his book. But I wanted Darren to, this, like I said, this is kind of like a mini Secret Teachings of All Ages, but I want to read this first half of paragraph and ask Darren what he thinks this means. The writer does not presume to put forward the following pages as any approach to a complete work upon the subject of which they treat. Okay, that's fine. They are but the avant-garde to pioneer the way for a larger corpus of facts. The attention of Masonic students and industrious members of old lodges, chapters, and conclaves is again called to the desirability of collecting and publishing any information or new facts, which can be obtained either from old works or the recondite mysteries of antiquity, or from the records of Freemasonry in its various degrees, as it is only thus that we can obtain a correct knowledge of our order and eliminate the truth.
That they're up to no good?
I don't know. I mean, until this is done, it is impossible to dogmatize and unsafe even to theorize. We have especially a dearth of information in England upon the earlier phase of Rosicrucianism and later of the progress of high-grade Freemasonry, owing to the secret character of both and the fact that no minutes of proceedings were kept. So I don't know. It's just weird that he would say and eliminate the truth. Like, does that mean like he's putting this whole compilation together to eliminate the truth? I mean, it seems weird.
Or to push back against it?
Yeah, or maybe push back against it.
Against the elimination of truth? I don't know. You let us know what you think it thinks. We could ask Randall when we see him in June.
Yeah.
Might want to, well, I'm sure I might see him before that because I might go see him in what's it called? In Washington. I forgot about that.
So then, the proofs of conspiracy, we can get into that a little bit. I mean, that gets into, so this is that one back from the 1700s. And the problem is a lot of these things, there's a real, they really feel like Britain is free. Like Britain has a constitution and the peoples are free. And there seems to be a theme across these that British Freemasonry wants to keep to itself and it doesn't want to take over the world. But yet the Grand Orient Freemasonry, the Masonry from
doesn't want to take over the world.
What were you going to say?
Nothing. It's funny.
The Grand Orient, they seem to blame for having wanted to do that. So this thing talks about
the British are blaming the Orients for.
Yeah, the Grand Orient, and then which is spread all over France and Germany, and
the British seem to have a history of taking over the world, though, don't they?
Well, this is the weird thing. I know. Even that Third British Empire book I just read. I mean, it's all technical, but they they seem to be proud of. They're saying, well, we did take it over by force, but we're not. You're not in the Commonwealth by force anymore. This is. You can do whatever you want. You can leave, but we are showing the people how to be free, sort of thing. Like, what the fuck? So this Proofs of a Conspiracy talks about the startup of the Illuminati. Like, I think this is the book where a lot of people get the stuff from Weishaupt and the Illuminati and the German Union, the French Revolution. It talks about, how the French Revolution was kind of, spurred or directed by these secret societies. I mean, but it does show you, like, back in the 1700s, there was 266 lodges in France already. In the 1800s, I think there was 1,200 lodges in France, according to some of these books.
Just in France?
Yeah, exactly. Just in France. I mean,
how many are in Canada?
I don't know now.
Huh. Hey Siri. I forgot to shut that off.
So, like I said, when apparently the Illuminati was using the infrastructure of masonry, and when they would get these initiates in, I mean, it was all above board. It was all like, hey, you got to be like a really good person, and you got to be like, sort of spiritually advanced, and we're gonna, you're gonna help with the world, and you're gonna, it's all this real these noble causes. And then apparently when you get up higher later, they kind of give you the true gist of it, which is more of like the sort of take over the world or control the governments and religion. They're infiltrating at that time the government and the religion, whether you were happy or not, or content or not as a society. They didn't want, the government and religion running things. It was very strange. But they'd have people, they'd say, well, part of the initiation was you got to sort of check out who's in your neighborhood. You got to watch people. Like, it was almost like the beginning of snitch culture in a way, and if you're good at sort of knowing what's going on in your area, they would bring you into and initiate you into this.
How many lodges do you think are, let's go. So, wow. How many, let's go with just Alberta. How many lodges do you think are in Alberta?
54.
120.
Okay.
How many in Ontario?
Wow, this is going to be higher than I expected. 700?
560.
Okay. Yeah.
Quebec?
450.
77. The Frenchies don't seem to be into it.
Wow.
Total in Canada's got to be, 5, 11, 12, 20, 23 plus 119. Let's just call that like 140 plus 140 is 280 plus 60 is 340 plus 15, 355 plus 50, 365, 405 plus 114 is like 530-ish, right? Plus 77, so we'll call that 610 plus 30, 640. Plus 54, 690, plus 10, 700, plus a 560 is going to give you a roughly approximately 1,250 lodges in Canada.
Yeah, wow.
So that's crazy to think about. I mean, if you divide that by the amount of citizens,
yeah,
there's only 36 million of us or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And half of those are chicks. They're not even allowed in.
Yeah, that is quite a bit, yeah.
Anyway,
so I mean, let's keep going on sort of that vein, I guess. So the wisdom, what the ancient wisdom expects of its disciples, was the Last Man Leapy Hall book, and it talks about a warning to esotericists and the coming of the mystery schools, and then he gets into the mystery schools and that's a short book. But it again talks about how noble you had to be to get into these schools. Like, it's, I'm starting to think like either either there's a black or an evil part of opposite to all these things that are supposedly noble, or that once they get to a certain size, they're just automatically corrupted and they try to go too far with everything. You know, that's kind of where I'm at these days with this, because it really seems like you got to be fucking tip top spiritually, physically, emotionally. Like, they don't let just fucking crazy people into these schools.
Into the mystery schools?
Yeah.
You think we get in?
Well, it takes fucking years of work. I mean, it takes years of work, and then you get accepted, you know?
Do you think I left the Masons, or do you think they edged me out? They nudged me.
They nudged you? Nudged you? You don't even know that you got nudged out?
Yeah.
They're like, let's pretend we're all for the mask mandates and this guy will just disappear.
They just know exactly how to get rid of me. We gotta make this motherfucker think it was his idea.
Yeah. That's how smart they are.
If he thinks it's our idea, we'll never get rid of him.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But I don't think so. I really don't.
So, I mean, I guess next I can talk about, the history of spiritualism, which was super interesting as well. I mean, because this kind of like, to me, there was the stuff that's sort of taken for granted now. The 1800s was full of, the Theosophy growing and spiritualism growing. And Arthur Conan Doyle has a great book called History of Spiritualism, and that talks about the story of Swedenborg, Emanuel Swedenborg, Edward Irving and the Shakers, the Prophet of the New Revelation, the Hydesville episode, the career of the Fox sisters, the first developments in America, the dawn of England, continued progress in England, the career of D.D. Home, the Davenports, the researches of Sir William Crookes, and the Eddy brothers and the Holmeses, Henry Slade and Dr. Monk, and the collective investigations of spiritualism. And I mean, it really shows you there was something legit going on, I think. I mean, it's really, it's like I got a bolded note here. The world since then has dug up much coal and iron. It has erected great structures and it has invented terrible engines of war. But can we say that it has advanced in spiritual knowledge or reverence for the unseen? Under the guidance of materialism, the wrong path has been followed, and it becomes increasingly clear that the people must return or perish. As we point to it,
are we perishing?
One can claim that spiritualism has been consistent from the first, and that the teachers and guides have not mixed their message. It is a strange and amusing reflection that the arrogant science, which has endeavored by its mere word and glare to crush this upstart knowledge in 1850, has been proved to be essentially wrong on its own ground. There are hardly any scientific axioms of that day. The finality of the element, the indivisibility of the atom, the separate origin of species, which have not been controverted, whereas the psychic knowledge, which was so derided, has steadily held its own, adding fresh facts, but never contradicting those which were originally put forward. And like the gist of this again is the media would catch on. So the media was fucked back then in the 1800s, like based on this materialistic paradigm. And they would catch on to one little, let's say, a fraud that was supposedly exposed, in spiritualism. Somebody got, caught rapping on tables, because that's how a lot of this communication happened. And then, of course, they would blow it all up. So there'd be this sort of paradigm of, it's all frauds and all this. Meanwhile, in the background, there's legitimate phenomena happening, But then again, you have the Theosophists that were against it as well. They thought, the spiritualists think it's your dead, it's all being visited from your dead ancestors or people from the afterlife. And I think the Theosophist take was more like, well, you have this power in yourself. Like, we have power to take, let's say, information from wherever, the Akasa or whatever, and that knowledge comes from a different source. I mean, to me, it kind of bugs me, because they were probably closer to themselves than they realized at the time, and they should have teamed up against materialism in some way. I mean, who cares if they're wrong about what the source is? The main thing is there's a mystery there. But the Brotherhood of the Theosophists, I mean, they didn't think the world was ready at the time either. I mean, to me, the 1800s was a huge awakening, and it got fucking smashed. It got clamped down. The end of the 1800s or the early 1900s with the Great War, or the maybe it was strictly just quantum physics and the ether when the ether disappeared. But,
is that where we're at again now?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, are we? But I mean, and then that kind of leads us into Fort's books, which were all very interesting, but he's got a real weird style of writing, of course, that is very kind of, I guess, I don't know, what would you say, like a dry humor type thing. But he documents the strange phenomena in the 1800s, early 1900s as well. So this is going back to that same timeline. And he's got a real interesting take because it's the same thing. Like he's sort of in between religion and science, and he just won't. He kind of sits on the fence in a good way. Like he stays in the middle because he realizes like these are phenomena of eras. So in this era, your paradigm is this, and you accept this data. If you're in the next era, you accept different data, and that changes the paradigm completely. But you disallow different data. So it's a very error-controlled phenomena. But get this, I was just reading. So this is from his book Low, and he pushes back against the astronomers, especially because they think that they kind of think they're so special and their mathematics of the thing, but yet they're wrong half the time. Like he goes over prediction after prediction that they're completely wrong, right? Or in this paradigm they say this is real, and then it's not accepted, and then all of a sudden it becomes real in the next paradigm. Like I think the astronomy was his real baseline of how science is so fucked.
Astronomy seems to be the one that works well too.
Well, I know. And nowadays, like maybe, I mean, that's what I was making me think. Are we in an age where technology has really allowed astronomy to become a real science, whereas before it was, a bunch of guesswork? Or is it just as messed up now?
I still think of NASA just making up a bunch of these numbers.
I know. In 100 years, are we going to look back and go, look at how wrong they were in the 2020s?
Oh, yeah. We're just like monkeys with cell phones.
And get this. So this is what I meant about the Russians, right? So this is written in the early 1900s. And he says, this is from his book Low. He says, in the year 1921, it was customary to accuse the Russians. I think that the climax was reached in the year 1927 when unruliness of natives in the jungles of Peru was attributed to Russian agents. Still, I suppose that for years, whenever there is a revolt against misrule and oppression, propagandists will tell us the same old yarn of otherwise contented natives, mizzled by those Russians. In June 1920, I mean, can you believe that? It's like this.
Those lousy Russians, I say. Those lousy Russians are at it again. I don't know what accent that was.
In June 1921, the way of explaining the disappearance of a dozen vessels was by saying that it was thought that the Soviet government was stealing them. It may be that constructions from somewhere else have appeared upon this earth and have seized crews of this earth's ships. I mean, okay, here, I'm going to read another paragraph from this book too. It's if our existence, because what he's saying is like, he would track all these phenomena of stuff falling from the sky or stuff being seen in the sky. And a lot of it would happen during celestial events, and a lot of it would happen over the same part of the globe. So he's like, how can we be rotating? How can things be happening up there if this phenomena keeps happening over the same part of the sky? And his view is almost like there's something up there that's stuck up there, or that we would see up there, whether it's living organisms or not, because there was so many falls from the sky. It was like blood falling from the sky, or rocks with runes, or mud, or weird hail, all these weird things that would fall in the same spot. And he's like, so how does this one animal fall from the sky in this one area? And then the local explanation was always the era the paradigm of the era was always, well, it got lifted in a hurricane or a whirlwind and got pulled up from the lake and pushed over to the other side of the earth, and then it dropped down. So he's like, so the hurricane separated all the debris and all this, and then only the fish fell in one area. Where they've been for all this time. What?
How come fish don't fall anymore?
This is the whole thing. What's
Or
happened
blood.
in the Is it electricity?
I think it's bullshit.
It's not. I mean, these are story after story corroborated by many people. I mean, this is true phenomena. This isn't just bullshit headlines. But that's the big question. What happened in the 1900s? Like, it turned to sort of more of a highly technological UFO type phenomena, but there was stuff seen in the skies all over in the 1800s. The astronomers saw it, but an astronomer would see it, but they wouldn't accept it into their paradigm. They would even put it in the books, what do you call that when you do like the papers and the periodicals? They'd put it in there, but they still wouldn't accept it in the paradigm. So he lists all these things that were written down, researched, acknowledged, and yet it didn't shift that era's paradigm. But he says here also, if our existence is an organism, it would seem that it must be one of the most notorious old rascals in the cosmos. It is a fabric of lies. Everywhere it conjures up appearances of realness and finality and trueness, words that I use as synonyms for one state. And then, when examined, everything is found not to be real or final or true, but to be depending upon something else or some other chimera, merging away and losing its appearance of individuality into everything else or every other fraud. That this pseudo-individualizing may in some cases realize itself is a view that I am not taking up in this book. Here is our concern to find out, if we think we can, whether we be the phenomena of an organism or not, whether that organism be producing something or be graduating realness out of the phenomenal, is a question that I shall take up some other time.
Which was your favorite of his books?
Well, I mean, it's probably the Book of the Damned.
That seems to be the one everyone knows about, right?
And I don't know why, because they're all very similar, but it might have a little bit more of his writing and less of the articles and stuff. But he does talk about, I'll read the beginning, one of the parts from the Book of the Damned here. It says, one of the damnedest in our whole Saturnalia of the accursed, because it is hopeless to try and shake off an excommunication only by saying that we're damned by blacker things than ourselves. And that the damned are those who admit they're of the damned. Inertia and hypnosis are too strong for us. We say that, then we go right on admitting we're of the damned. It is only by being more nearly real than we can sweep away the quasi things that oppose us. Of course, as a whole, we have considerable amorphousness, but we are thinking now of individual acceptances. Wideness is an aspect of universalness or realness. If our synthesis disregard fewer data than do opposing synthesis, which are often not synthesis at all, but mere consideration of some one circumstance, less widely synthetic things fade away before us. Harmony is an aspect of the universal, by which we mean realness. If we approximate more highly to harmony among the parts of an expression and to all available circumstances of an occurrence, the self-contradictors turn hazy. Solidity is an aspect of realness. We pile them up and we pile them up, or they pass and pass and pass. Things that bulk large as they march by, supporting and solidifying one another, and still for regiments to come. So I think what he's saying here is that, like, that there's always this sort of push towards universalness or realness, but we get excommunicated because we find data that's not accepted in the paradigm. He's always pointing out that they left all this data out, and if you include that data, it changes the hypothesis completely. Everything is kind of migrating, and everything, like, reality is always. What was the word he used? Not transmuting, but moving towards something else. It's kind of hard to explain, but his books are written very interesting, I think, in that way, where it's very sort of dry humor, and he kind of uses headlines from papers and paragraphs to sort of use against the press and the scientific paradigm of the time.
Totally. And there's 4 of those, of course. That's Book of the Damned, Low, New Lands, and Wild Talents.
Yeah.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Ba-ba-ba-ba.
We also got the Occult World, which is sort of a theosophy book written by A.P. Sennett, and that talks about his experiences with Blavatsky and the Brotherhood, the Theosophical Society, their first occult experiences, teachings of the occult philosophy, later occult phenomena, and
the Brotherhood of the Serpents,
occultism and its adepts. And he talks about the real experiences with Blavatsky and the Brotherhood and the phenomena of things appearing and dropping and notes appearing and being put in places for communication where they could never be put normally, like real astral sort of spiritual phenomena. So that's kind of interesting because it kind of brings more context to the secret doctrine stuff and the ISIS Unveiled. I mean, I would personally, I like the Secret Doctrine Volume 3 the most. Like Secret Doctrine 1 and 2, it talks about hang on a second, I had something there about that.
Someone said there was a Secret Doctrine 4.
Yeah, there isn't though. I don't think
there isn't. That's bullshit.
I couldn't respond to their email. So if you email on the website, you got to put your email in, or we can't respond.
That's probably in the one I have.
4 is just the index. Remember that one that we had there in our hard copy doctrine that we actually found in an antique store at one of our first major CACs in Colorado. That's part of the synchronous of this whole thing.
But
the books 1 and 2 are kind of like the stanzas from the Book of Jan, and it's the commentaries, and then she kind of uses Isis Unveiled as a reference on a lot of the other books of antiquity and tries to break down these stanzas from the ancient Book of Jan. It's a pretty deep. I mean, I like the 3rd volume best because that kind of gets into modern criticism of the ancients, the origin of magic, the secrecy of the initiates, dangers of practical magic, old wine and new bottles, the Book of Enoch, Hermetic and Kabbalistic doctrines. Like, this is her notes. So this volume completes the papers left to Annie Besant by Helena Blavatsky, with the exception of a few scattered articles. Annie had the difficult task of publishing hundreds of notes as this 3rd volume. And while only making grammatical corrections and filling in some gaps, she did her best to leave them as written. Included are many papers on the origin and danger of magic, the occult, secret mysteries, initiations, symbolism, historical figures and organizations, and various religions and scientific principles. I think that's my favorite is book Secret Doctrine book Volume 3. I think what they're talking about is Volume 4, which was sort of Volume 3 in our hardcover, which is really just a huge appendix, or it's like a big index of stuff. And
how did that compare to Isis Unveiled?
I liked Isis Unveiled very similar. Like it was. I have something else about ISIS here. I got to pull up my other website here because the 3 was sort of less technical, and it was more of like these chapters based on her notes. It gets into also the old secret books. And then there's the second part, which is some papers on the bearing of occult philosophy of life. And there's some criticism on her take on Buddhism for sure in there. But the Isis Unveiled, I I like them better than the Secret Doctrine, actually. Like if you were going to choose between these tomes, the Isis Unveiled part 1 is on the infallibility of modern science, and then part 2 is religion. So it's kind of broken up the same way the secret doctrine is. And I think they use this kind of as a reference doc because they refer to it quite a bit in the secret doctrine. But they talk about phenomena and forces and the blind leaders of the blind, psychic phenomena, astral light, psychophysical phenomena, the elements, mysteries of nature, the inner and outer man, psychological and physical marvels, the impassable chasm, realities and illusion, Egyptian wisdom. And then the volume 2 gets into the church, the Christian crimes and heathen virtues, divisions amongst the early Christians, Oriental cosmogonies and Bible records, mysteries of the Kabbalah, esoteric doctrines of Buddhism, parodied in Christianity, which is pretty interesting, early Christian heresies and the secret societies, Jesuitry and Masonry, the Vedas and the Bible, the devil myth.
Jesuitry, isn't that just Jewishness?
Jewry.
Jewry.
Comparative results of Buddhism and Christianity, and conclusions and illustrations. I mean, you know, the thing is, I think they kind of got themselves in trouble because they're obviously against Christianity and the church. And they think that, you know, that Christianity made up evil, made the devil. They kind of dispel the evil part of the devil and the Satanism and stuff like that. And then they also push back against materialism, which is the part I appreciate of them, is they acknowledge the magic and the phenomena, but they just don't like the dogma created by Christianity or the Catholic Church. And this kind of is one of those things that shows that the MIPS, well, I'm okay with it. Yeah. I mean, it's so, what was I reading the other day that brought also these old questions of Christ? It was the book of Ancient Egypt, The Light of the World, that talks about, you know, the resurrection was from the Egypt Book of the Dead. I mean, they took the Christ resurrection from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I mean, there's all these references that go back prior to Christianity that, you know, it really seems to be pointing in that direction, but the Christians have a real hard time with that, you know?
Huh. We should get the Pope on.
And the other thing about the Theosophical books is that they really warn about playing around with this stuff, which now with New Age movement in the 1900s and the 2020s where we are at, and the interest in magic and sigil magic and chaos, and, you know, chaos magic and all this other magic, you know, Wicca, the resurgence of Wicca. I mean, people are playing around with all kinds of stuff, you know, including us to a certain extent, right? But she's warning against even yoga and meditation. She's like, you got to be an adept before you do any of this stuff. It's really interesting.
Wicca what?
And I mean, what kind of influence is that having, all these people just playing around with this spiritualist stuff? In the, you know, what kind of influence is that having on us in the world?
It's making us crazy.
I want to pull up something quickly about the proofs of a conspiracy, because
the Bach.
No, not that right? One. The the other one. The
person of color like me. Proofs of a conspiracy. It's a POAC. Whack. Whack.
No, it was the other one, the secret societies and subversive movements.
Oh, the S&M one. You're secretly,
because that gets into the, you know, that S&M. Gets into more of the. That's quite a tome as well. I mean, it talks about the ancient secret tradition. It gets into the past as well.
You're starting to use tome pretty loosey goosey, like synchro. It's 13 hours.
I don't know. What's the tome? 30?
30 plus.
Okay. All right. The revolt against Islam, the Templars, 3 centuries of occultism, the origins of Freemasonry, the Grand Lodge era, German Templarism and French Illuminism, the Jewish Kabbalists, the Bavarian Illuminati. So that's where they get into
the Jew
Rise Up and all that as well. And then they talk about the climax of the Illuminati and Russia.
Now I'm picturing Jewish Kabbalists climaxing.
And that's that's part 1, which is the past. So the ancient secret traditions of the past. And then they get into part 2, which is the present, and that's modern Freemasonry, secret societies in England, and the open subversive movements, pan-Germanism, the real Jewish peril, and the conclusion. And then there's Jewish evidence on the Talmud and the protocols of the elders of Zion in the back. So this is probably one of one of the more sort of controversial ones, probably.
Totes. Other than the Unibomber Manifesto.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a quote here from this book. The most dangerous fallacy to which democracy, under the influence of Illuminized Freemasonry, has succumbed is that peace between nations can be brought about by means of internationalism. That is to say, by the destruction of national feeling. Yet a man is more likely to live at peace with his neighbors because he is devoid of natural affection. On the contrary, the good brother, the devoted father, is most likely to become the faithful friend. Permanent peace between nations will probably never be ensured, but the only basis on which such a situation can conceivably be established is the basis of sane nationalism, an understanding between the patriotic and virile elements in every country, which, because they value their own liberties and revere their own traditions, are able to respect those of other nations. Now, that's exactly the opposite of what the Third British Empire is saying, which is coming out, which was kind of a speech to the House of Commons, I think, or something. Or no, it was lectures in New York, actually. And they're just demonizing nationalism, basically. And it's pretty interesting the way they talk about the British Commonwealth and demonizing nationalism.
Because it should all be Britain?
Well, they talk about it's interesting because it's between the First World War and the Second World War. They're talking about peace on earth and how the British Commonwealth, the British Empire, can provide peace on earth, and then World War II happens shortly after that, those lectures. So it's like, well, where the fuck were you guys at? But they're talking about the League of Nations and how that kind of failed.
Isn't that what the UN is?
Yeah, it's the new League of Nations, or not new, but the reinvigorated or redesigned.
Oh, the League of Nations used to not have. Did we used to be in that? Probably not.
Well, we were in there as part of the Commonwealth.
I
think, or the Empire. I think the British. A big part of the League of Nations was was Britain.
Isn't the Queen going to die?
And all its dominions. I think we were called a dominion back then.
The Queen has COVID.
Our Queen is toast.
She could be toast. I mean, she's pretty old.
What a distraction that would be. I mean, really, what perfect timing.
We fucking kill the Queen. Shit's popping off. Any more books?
Well, I mean, there's lots, but I don't know. That's probably good. I think I touched on a lot of the main ones I wanted to touch on. I mean, they can go to AdultBrain and see more, or search in Audible and see more as well. And
well, I'm proud of you, buddy. You done great. Let's do a little how far you've come. Want to do that?
I mean, I guess I could read a little bit about the secret teachings. I mean, but that is such a huge tome. But I mean, it gets into all this stuff. I mean, the thing I like about secret teachings is it talks about these people that are sort of underrated in our history, like Count Cagliostro and Count Saint Germain and Paracelsus and Balsamo. These people that traveled and knew many languages, and Jacob Boehme. Super interesting stuff, but that gets deep into all this stuff. I mean, it's a huge tome. And Russ from the Snake Brothers reads all the notes on there, which is like 8 hours of notes in itself, I think.
8 hours of notes, yep. I'm just looking for your first book.
No. We don't have to talk. We don't have to do that. We don't have to embarrass me before we leave.
Oh, come on. We're not gonna. I mean, we're trying to sell the books here. I mean, here's your first book. It's got 6 5-star reviews.
Okay.
I mean, it's the esoteric structure of the alphabet. Let's hear it. I mean, you can get this book for $4.
Mundus, from which is our adjective mundane. Also from this comes mount, mountain, mound, already explained as referring to no hill on earth, but to the earth itself. Hebrew name for this lower veil of tribulation was Hinnom, or Gehinnom. In the upper realms, souls are not sufficient.
That was a crazy book. I mean, that sort of fits in with this whole thing. So get this. The author of that book, I think it's Alvin Boyd Kuhn, maybe.
Yes,
he
that's right.
he has a glowing review for the ancient Egypt book, Light of the World, which it really reminds me of a mix between that esoteric of the alphabet book and of Hamlet's Mill. Like it's talking about how all these ancient myths in Africa and even Aborigine Australia, Native American, go back to before Egypt, basically. Like it's with the totemism and the sign language, and that book gets into the language itself, but the ancient Egypt book goes back prior to language.
Here is your latest title.
Misters Spencer and Gillen have shown that up to the present time, the Arunta tribes of Central Australia do not ascribe the begettal of a human soul to the male parent. They think the male may serve a purpose in preparing the way for conception, but they have not yet got beyond the incorporation of a soul from the elements of external nature.
And that's from elemental and ancestral spirits, the gods and the glorified.
That's what book what of the ancient
Book
Egypt?
3 of 12 of the Ancient Egypt Light of the World series.
Thanks to Bill Anderson for suggesting that one to us. Big shout
Bill
out
the
to
Shill.
Bill
Big
the
shout out to Bill the Shill, our local federal agent. Federale.
Honestly, the weird thing is the books all read differently. They all read. It's so interesting when you start having to read them out loud. They all have a different sort of vibe, a different feel, a different cadence. And the ancient Egypt one is way easier than I expected. But I mean, imagine reading all the syllables from all the esoteric alphabet one. I mean, it's completely different. And Charles Fort's books are a completely different feeling.
Next time we'll play some of your fiction. Erotica. Did you do any erotica, what do they call it? Auditions?
No.
No, not yet. That might be a good one you and the missus could do together. I'm not editing it though.
I'll put the Yeti mic on the table and just do it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus.
I want to mention also, before we forget, The Wisdom of the Ancients by Francis Bacon was also read by, did we talk about that? It was read by Robert Frederick.
We did. Yeah.
And, because he read the other one. And then Owen Hunt did The Philosophy of Spiritual Activity, which was, I think, the last Rudolf Steiner book that needed to be put into audio.
Joe Roop.
Joe Roop did some Annie Besant, Thought Forms.
That's right.
And wasn't there another one he did? I don't think so. Huh?
He might have done two. If he did, I forget what the other one's called. Philosophy.
So if you don't like the sound of my voice, there are some other ones. The Problems of Philosophy as well. There are some other ones as well. But yeah, we feel super grateful to be able to do this, to put this out there for people. I have a surprise for you, Darren. I just recorded one today that I don't think we will be able to put on Audible, but maybe we can put it in our podcast feed.
Is it the Great Jewish Conspiracy again?
No. The International Jew by Henry Ford. No, it's not that one either.
Maybe we could put that in Outlawed.
It is called, and this is going to creep you out, dude. It's called Vaccination from 1888. Let me just read something to you here from that. Vaccination proved useless and dangerous by Alfred Russel Wallace.
Sounds like a dangerous anti-vaxxer.
I know. And dude, it's crazy. He was dealing with the same issues we're dealing with today. Categorizations in the hospitals of non-vaccinated and vaccinated, bad data.
Bad data. That'd be a good website. Or taken.
It is often asserted that although vaccination is not a complete protection against smallpox, yet it diminishes the severity of the disease and renders it less dangerous to those who take it. This assertion is sufficiently answered by the proof above given that it has not diminished smallpox mortality, but more direct evidence can be adduced.
Induced?
Adduced.
Huh. And induced.
And this is the final thing. I think it says here, one of the final paragraphs. We therefore solemnly urge upon you the immediate repeal of the iniquitous penal laws by which you have forced upon us a dangerous and useless operation, an operation which has admittedly caused many deaths, which is probably the cause of greater mortality than smallpox itself, but which cannot be proved to have saved a single human life ever.
Well,
so I mean,
yeah,
this is paralleling what's happening right now, and this is in the 1800s, and he's got data from the 1860s to the 1880s, and he uses 45 years of
1860s to 1880s, 1860s, 1880s.
Yeah,
I thought you said 16s. So I was like, what the fuck were they?
No.
Were they like jabbing you up with? I wouldn't want to be getting vaccinated in the 1600s. I mean, I'm not getting vaccinated in 2022, so.
It says it's from 45 years of registration statistics. So.
Oh my God, this place, I left the door open. The cats just come in one at a time. This love podcast.
Yeah, there you have it. There's a surprise for you. It's all done and ready to go. We can figure out where we want to do that. I really don't think we want to put that on Audible right now.
You think we'll get banned?
Yeah, it might cause some attention to if your bank accounts didn't get frozen from donating $25 to the freedom movement, the peaceful freedom movement, the peaceful and loving freedom movement. Against mandates, only against mandates, not anti-vaxxers, only against mandates. If that didn't get your account frozen, then maybe this will.
I have that burner account. We could upload it through that one.
A burner Audible account?
I have a burner account for everything. You need a backup plan. You gotta stay in business.
Backup to the backup to the backup.
To the backup to the backup. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed our little book review project here. Little Graham Dunlop been doing a little reading for a little audiobook company.
His little studio.
AdultBrain.ca's got most of them. I'll try and update that today so they're all there by the time this comes out. But like I say, if you go to Audible, type in Graham Dunlop, they'll all pop up. Should be 3-4 pages of his big, beautiful voice reading big, beautiful books. And if you enjoyed this episode, you enjoy our lazy ramblings, head over to Grimerica.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation. Head over to contact@thecabin.com if you want to get in on one of these trips. We got some availability for Hawaii and for California early next year, January and February. Magic on the Mountain and the stargazing. And there's a couple spots left for... I think there's 1 or 2 spots left for the Montana Randall Carlson's flood tour. And then there's 2 Scabland tours in the fall. So maybe even still some Egypt left, but I don't think so. Check all that stuff out. Contact@thecabin.com. Sign up for the chats. Grimerica.ca/chats. You could kick me off Twitter sooner than later, I'm sure. Other than that, we love you guys. We hope you enjoyed our little episode here. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Teach me all your secrets to get a good handle on a better way to live. How does one get out of bed every day in the throes of the apocalypse? Should I bury my head in the sand or sabotage their evil plan? I feel really trapped, an ant burned by a magnifying glass. It's all a little bit too convenient, all the evidence went up in flames. Phonies, fraudsters, scammers belong in the slammer, my friend, best give up their names. Should I call on militiamen or pass out a petition pen? I feel really trapped, an ant burned by a magnifying glass. I don't know what y'all been told, but I got a soul made out of gold. Sound off, 1, 2, sound off, 3, 4, cadence count, 1, 2, a big ball. Some time ago a crazy dream came to me. I dreamt I was walking into World War III. As prophetic as humidity, floats it down a river dark, as prophetic as deja vu, as wormwood, as falling stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. I can't even hear my own thoughts for the life of me over the din of a bruised and broken culture. The media spins and splatters and spins and clatters, and I cringe because it's psychological warfare. Don't you feel yourself getting really mad? How did we let it get this bad? Don't you feel really trapped, like a brain in a vat? Trying really hard to close Pandora's box, but sirens are singing me off a cliff. I'm looking to hitchhike to Shangri-La over yonder. Sophia, would you give me a lift? Hopped out of the Hegelian rebellion. Say goodbye to all you Machiavellians. Let evil destroy itself. I'm bound for Shangri-La. Shangri-La. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. As prophetic as morning doves, as groundhogs, as fallen stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now we're floating it down a river dark. As prophetic as white wolves, as butterflies, as rainbows. Sophia sings it now. We built a plane, now we're taking flight above a river bright.